From the 7 Storm Team, your first alert weather with meteorologist Ben Terry.
All right, Hurricane Harvey churning in the Gulf this morning. We'll have another update for you coming up with the 7 o'clock advisory. They are putting out these hourly advisories now, though, with changes, if any, in the intensity of the track, though likely not to change much, as this is still forecast to make a landfall here within, well, less than 24 hours now over the coast here of central Texas. Here's the way it looks on the radar now. We got those outer rain bands extending now all the way up along the Texas coast. We'll have to watch for some of these extremely outer rain bands that could move up closer to southwest Louisiana later this afternoon as the storm takes more of a little bit of a northwesterly track before making a landfall. So something we're definitely going to be watching, of course. That's going to be our big takeaway from this storm system is the flooding potential. Right now, hurricane hunters flying out. They did record some wind speeds there, 109 miles per hour. They have a pressure there at 950 millibars. And that's those hurricane hunters flying the C-130 out of Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi. All right, here's the way it looks. Northwest at 10, 105 mile an hour wind, so it's a strong Category 2. Almost a Category 3 now. In fact, by this afternoon, they've got those winds going up to 120 miles per hour. So landfalling there is a 3, a major hurricane. It'll be the first Category 3 or larger hurricane that's made landfall in the U.S. since Hurricane Wilma back in 2005. So it's going to break that drought of major hurricanes that have not hit the U.S. They're now in 12 years. 75 mile an hour winds by Saturday. The track just kind of makes a big circle here over the weekend. Eventually, though, we're thinking that this could either reemerge into the Gulf or stay over land. That's going to have impacts on if this thing could strengthen or not. But regardless, we're talking a lot of rain and flooding here in southwest Louisiana. So what are we looking at with Category 3 hurricane as it makes its way onshore tonight into tomorrow? Well, that's a Cat 2, extensive damage there. By Cat 3, though, we're talking those winds really picking up and the storm surge here that's going to cause devastating damage there, again, to the Corpus Christi area. Those Category 3 winds only extending out about 25 to 30 miles outside of the center of the storm. Again, it's this uncertainty with what's going to happen in the long range that has us a bit worried here in southwest Louisiana. Pretty confident, though, that if this track makes its way our direction, which is what it's looking like it's going to happen as a much weaker storm, flooding is going to be a problem for a lot of our area. In fact, for sure, southeast Texas, Houston, Galveston, Corpus, and then into South Louisiana by the end of the weekend, early next week, with that ramping up of the rain coverage and the intensity here. These are the two most reliable computer models. We have the European and the GFS American model. This is next Wednesday. The storm is still sitting here somewhere over the Texas Beaumont area. So a lot of these heavy bands of rain still going to be impacting our area. The rainfall totals are going to add up. We're going to have those piling up of winds here along the coast with the south flow, and that's going to keep the rivers, the bayous, from being able to really drain efficiently. So we're going to have issues with flooding, street flooding. We're going to have problems for the next several days. Area-wide calling for 10 to 15 inches of rain by the middle of next week. As far as the winds, this is not going to be a wind impact for southwest Louisiana. With landfalling storms, though, even with those outer feeder bands, isolated quick spin-up tornadoes will be possible through the weekend and early next week. Storm surge will be an issue tomorrow morning along the Cameron coast. 1 to 3 feet above ground level is where we will have those water levels by high tide tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Rainfall amounts here. This is the GFS American by 5 inches by Monday morning, so we could already have some flooding problems to start the week. Then it begins to add up. We're looking at Tuesday morning. We're at already showing 8.75 inches Lake Charles, all the way up into Fort Polk and DeRidder there, 5 to 6 inches. Down in Cameron, maybe as much as 12 to 13 by Wednesday. And then we'll look for the eventual departure by Thursday and Friday, but that's going to leave some areas here with 10 to 15 inches of rain. So our greatest concern, heavy rain, flooding. That's going to be the takeaway from this storm, not the winds, and not really even necessarily the storm surge per se, although we will have that 1 to 3 foot storm surge over the next 24 hours here in Cameron. So make preparations now to what you would do if the roads are flooded next week and you can't get out of your house for a few days. Go ahead and just prepare for that. Get those supplies. We're not talking any sort of likely need for an evacuation in Calcasieu Parish, but, you know, just think about what's going to happen if the roads are flooded, you can't get out of your house for a few days. Go ahead now and make those preparations before we start seeing all that heavy rain later this weekend and throughout next week.
This morning, actually, in just a little over an hour, Calcasieu GOSEP Director Dick Remion is going to come to the studio and just talk about the actual potential impacts in Calcasieu Parish and what's being done to prepare, because, of course, there are pretty serious situations right now for Cameron Parish.
Yes.
And try not to panic. I mean, just use common sense and be careful with all the social media stuff that's on the web. You don't know what information you're getting. Try to make sure that the information that you get is official and that you don't just go off on any forecast, because you don't know what's
You just have to be prepared.
We trust you, Ben, and I know I've been texting you specifically.
Well, I think the takeaway from this storm is going to be the flooding. It's not going to be the winds. It's going to be flooding throughout several days next week.
Okay. All right. We'll be prepared.